Imagine watching a generation's defining neon aesthetic, literally just, well, short circuit. Like after 7 years of glitter-streaked trauma, HBO's Euphoria didn't just end with its season 3 finale. It collapsed.
Yeah, it really did. It completely fell apart.
Right. So if you've been watching Rue Bennett fight for her life since 2019, you were probably waiting for that classic, Hollywood redemption arc. But today, welcome to our deep dive where we are pulling from HuffPost, The Economic Times, and The Hollywood Reporter to figure out why creator Sam Levinson violently yanked the steering wheel in the exact opposite direction.
It is just such a fractured finale. I mean, when a show that basically defines youth culture abruptly kills its protagonist and then pivots the survivors to content creators and literally changes its sonic heartbeat, you have to ask yourself, did it outgrow its own heart?
Absolutely. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the reality check that completely broke the internet. Rue doesn't get a triumphant graduation scene.
No, she really doesn't.
She takes a pill from Alamo, totally misses the cue that it's laced with fentanyl, and slips into this hallucination.
Yeah, that scene where she reunites with Fez in this beautiful sunlit field.
Exactly. And I have to say, looking at the finale, it feels almost cruel to give the audience that warm reunion right before Ollie finds her lifeless on the couch. It's like a mirage in a desert, Just this beautiful, comforting illusion right before the devastating reality of her death.
It is cruel, yeah. But what's fascinating here is that the cruelty is the point. Levinson is aggressively rejecting utopian storytelling here.
Oh, he really is.
He's forcing you to look at the modern fentanyl crisis for what it is, like a trapdoor. You don't always get a second or third chance.
And what makes that hallucination so effective isn't just the writing. It's the mechanism behind it.
Right, because they used literal 7-year-old test footage of Zendaya and the late Angus cloud for that scene.
Which is just wild. It weaponizes our own nostalgia against us.
Yeah, exactly. It makes Rue's death feel like a documentary rather than a scripted drama. You're watching the actual ghosts of the show's past. I think it really challenges you to confront the grim realities of addiction without the usual Hollywood sugarcoating.
Yeah, for sure. But what's jarring is how the show processes that trauma, or rather, how it refuses to. We go from Rue's grim reality straight into this hyper-modern detachment with the surviving characters.
The tonal shift is insane.
It really is. And here's where it gets really interesting. Nate Jacobs gets buried alive by a gang, somehow escapes, and then gets killed by a rattlesnake.
I know. I mean, it sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud.
And then Cassie and Maddy immediately take over his mansion and turn it into a ringlet influencer operation. Is this just like disjointed writing, or is it actually a dark, brilliant satire on our culture's obsession with metabolizing trauma into content?
I mean, it's a fair question. Critics have pointed out that the show traded its early psychological depth for prestige crime thriller mechanics, just pure shock value. But think about what Cassie and Maddy are actually doing. They are putting a literal beauty filter over a crime scene.
Wow. Yeah, that is the ultimate modern defense mechanism. If you can monetize the trauma, you don't have to feel it.
Precisely. They are metabolizing grief into content. It's a stark contrast to Rue's fate. She couldn't escape her reality, while her peers are literally broadcasting an alternate one.
But that alternate reality felt fundamentally broken to watch. And I don't think it was just because of the script.
You mean the music?
Yes. The identity of Euphoria was never just visual, it was sonic. And losing Labyrinth behind the scenes, it felt like the show was stripped of its nervous system. So what does this all mean?
Well, a show's score is its emotional anchor. Labyrinth's original score used these heavy, chaotic synth beats that mimicked a racing, drug-fueled heartbeat. It pulled you into the character's anxiety.
Yeah, you really felt it in your chest.
Exactly. So when he abruptly quit with that fiery social media post and Hans Zimmer took over for the finale, the entire pacing of the show warped.
Fans were merciless about that. They were calling Zimmer's sweeping orchestral swells all-inclusive resort elevator music.
Yeah, which is tough because Zimmer is a legend. But grand, tranquil orchestration fundamentally slows visual pacing down.
Right, it doesn't fit the frantic vibe at all.
No, when you replace a frantic internal heartbeat with a sweeping external score, you suddenly give the audience time to breathe and look around, and when they look around, they notice the plot holes.
Oh, wow, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Even Zendaya delivering an Emmy-worthy performance, which, by the way, she had to shoot in a whirlwind 4-month window.
Right. Her schedule was completely packed.
Yeah, even that couldn't anchor a show that had lost its sonic grounding. The music really exposed the collapsing structure.
And with HBO confirming this is the absolute end, no season 4, we are left looking at the wreckage.
We really are. The series leaves behind a legacy of brilliant, raw performances wrapped in a finale that ultimately outgrew its own heart.
It started as a raw mirror held up to youth anxieties. But looking at this chaotic, fractured conclusion, you have to ask yourself a deeper question.
What's that?
Did this series ultimately serve as a cautionary tale about addiction, or just a cautionary tale about the television industry itself?
That is such a fascinating point, and I'll leave you, the listener, with this thought to mull over. When that generation-defining neon sign finally short-circuits and the screen fades to black, what happens to all those young actors who gave their formative years to a project that ultimately prioritized spectacle over substance? Does the trauma of the characters just bleed into the real lives of the cast long after the cameras stop rolling? It really makes you wonder,